Hi, Martin Harvey here from Align Chiropractic. So today's video, what I want to talk about is a really simple routine that I think will help you in terms of managing stress and improving your sleep. So I'm recording this during the whole COVID-19 lockdown here in Melbourne. And one of the things that I've become super aware with talking to people is that stress is having a bigger than ever impact because of the current circumstance. So there's not always a lot we can do about the circumstances, and that applies right now, but it also applies to life generally. Often the things that are stressing us are not things that we can immediately resolve. So it's really useful to have tools that you can use to reduce the physiological impact, reduce the health impact of stress and or issues with sleep, so that they're less likely to cause your immune system to work more poorly, less likely to cause a build-up of tension that is often a driver of spine problems, and all the other things like headaches and so on that we know are very, very strongly stress-related. So when we talk about stress from a physiological perspective, there's a whole lot of hormones that are involved. Number one hormone is a hormone called cortisol, but all of our hormones are sort of interlinked. And when we talk about sleep and stress, the hormone that also becomes a really important one for us to consider is one called melatonin. It's the hormone that really triggers us to feel sleepy at the time that we want to go to sleep. And so there's often a very strong tie-in between higher than normal levels of stress and having more difficulty sleeping. So I sort of wanted to combine a routine that allows you to essentially use really easy triggers to try and normalize your melatonin levels and your cortisol levels. So first thing that I'm going to suggest that you do is to, wherever possible, get outside early in the morning. Well, once you're early for you, but to get outside, because getting outside we get unfiltered light even if it's cloudy, and that goes through our eyes and stimulates in our brain the production of melatonin. So if we do that early in the morning, much more likely that it sets our circadian rhythm in a way that we're going to feel nice and sleepy when it's time to go to bed later that night. The advantage of doing a walk is, one, it's one of the few things we are able to do with our current stage 4 COVID lockdown, but it also triggers a thing called optic flow. And optic flow is essentially a stimulation of certain brain circuits by having things going past us, by having things going through our visual field. So it triggers a series of changes in our brain that also helps to kind of relax us and reset cortisol levels in a way that's really healthy. So if it's raining outside and you can't get that, the next best way of doing it is to move around the house a bit. If we're restricted to our homes, we're not moving as much as we might normally. So make a conscious effort to sort of almost do laps of the house. You also want to get near a window. Now, the window will have the light slightly filtered. Some of the UV radiation doesn't come through the window, so it's not quite as good as the melatonin effect that you get being out in direct sunlight, but almost as good. One little thing to add to the getting out for your morning walk, important that you don't wear sunglasses unless it's so bright that you almost have to squint, because the light coming in, it gets filtered and altered by sunglasses. And so particularly in the morning, you're generally not going to need it unless you're walking directly into the sun. The other thing that I've mentioned on other videos, but I just want to go into in a little bit more detail, is the power of a physiological sigh. So when we talk about cortisol and stress, often the strategy that comes up is learning and developing a meditation practice. And it's a very well established, evidence-based way of improving our health, improving our cognitive function, and reducing our stress levels. But it is a bit time consuming, and for a lot of people it's a tough habit to get into. The beauty of the physiological sigh is that it's very neurologically triggered. You don't have to develop a skill, it's just using your breathing in a very specific way, but you get the effect immediately, whereas meditation is a skill, is a practice that you have to develop over a period of time. So physiological sigh is essentially a way of breathing where you breathe, take one deep breath, which expands the little alveoli in your lungs and triggers certain neural pathways. Then you take a second breath over the top of that, and then you relax as you let your breath out. So a really powerful way of triggering a direct neural pathway that reduces, that changes you from being in what you might think of as a nervous system that's all wound up and ready to go, which is called a sympathetic state, to a parasympathetic state, which is the neurological way that our bodies get us into the right state to rest and relax and repair any damage that's happened to our body. So physiological sigh. In terms of our routine, I'd be suggesting go for your walk, get the optic flow, get the melatonin, and then after that, sit down and do 5 of these physiological sigh breaths. Really, really simple. All you do is just breathe in through the nose. Just relax your shoulders as you're doing it. Breathe in. Second breath. And out. Third one. I'm going to do 2 more. Breathe in. Last one. So there we have it, a really simple routine to help manage sleep, to help improve stress levels or lower stress levels, based on research that's done by Dr. Andrew Huberman, who's a neuroscientist at Stanford in the US, doing some really exciting work that I think can really help us live a healthier, happier, more active life.